the finest group of people at the con. Gathered right here. So guys, thank you for having me, and thank you to the Alamo City Con for inviting me. And they just said, go out there and talk to people, so I figured, I'd start taking your questions, and anything you want to ask me about, feel free. Sir. Come up to the mic so everybody can hear you.
Well, first of all, I just want to congratulate you on completing Wolves, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's coming out November 14th.
That's correct. Wolves is a movie that it's my directorial debut, so it comes out November 14th.
Right. Congratulations.
Well, we'll see. What do you see?
So my question is about the Metal Gear Solid movie. From my understanding, I think you said in an interview that you wrote a 20-page pitch or a treatment that you pitched to Sony, and I was just wondering if you could tell us some specifics about that treatment. What was in that pitch?
Yeah. I guess I can. I mean, it's not like they're making my version. So what happened was, I can't remember how long ago it was. It was maybe 10 years ago. I got a call from a producer friend of mine saying, we're doing Metal Gear and you'd be the ideal writer. And I said, I agree. And but then we found out that Konami Japan had made a deal with one producer and Konami US had made a deal with another producer. So I had to go pitch it to the other producer, and I came up with a 20-page pitch, and essentially I wanted to take the story from Shadow Moses Island, from the incident at Shadow Moses, and I don't want to tell you too many details because you never know what happens, and they might, I might come back to do it, or they might sort of steal my ideas, and I don't want to ruin the surprises. But suffice it to say, we were talking about possibly, Hugh Jackman as Snake, because he's a friend of mine, and I feel he would do a pretty good job. I was going to basically introduce the movie-going audience to that Shadow Moses episode. Anybody else? Sir. Good.
As it relates to the Metal Gear series, were you caught off guard when they asked Kiefer Sutherland to voice the last Snake? And then do you see yourself coming back and doing future work with the Metal Gear series?
I have inside information with the Metal Gear people. I have my spies everywhere, and so I knew that they were doing something weird with Snake, or that they were going to have somebody else come in and do something, but they wouldn't give me too much detail. So I heard about Kiefer's involvement when you did, when they made the big announcement. And I was really hoping for like a crappy actor, so that I could just really, tear it to pieces. But I really like Kiefer Sutherland, and I've always been a big fan. So, he's still doing my part, but I don't begrudge him that. So, as far as coming back goes, it's up to Konami, really, and Mr. Kojima. I would be happy to come back. And I'm very committed to the Metal Gear series and to Snake. It's meant a lot to me. So, I'll come back if they ask me. Thanks, man. Thank you. Although technically there are a few Snakes, but they're all me. What George Sears? Yes, that's right. The president, everybody's Snake, really. We're all Snake on the inside. Spoilers, yeah. Yes, you in the blue.
Act 5 of Metal Gear Solid 4, had you been the voice of both Solid Snake and Big Boss during that, how would you handle that?
Richard, what is the name of the actor? Richard Doyle, yeah. So they had at the end, spoilers, towards the end of Metal Gear 4, Big Boss meets Solid Snake, who has been cloned from him. You know, a lot of people say, oh, it makes sense that they'd have different voices, but I always argue that they're clones, so they have identical vocal cords. Like, I sound very similar to my father. He's very snaky in his own way. But how would I have done it? Well, the difference between the two characters is that they were both old, but Solid Snake was diseased, you know, his body was falling apart. So I would have tried to come up with an older voice for Big Boss that still had some strength to it, where by the end of Metal Gear 4, you know, old Snake was falling apart. Couldn't, you know, his larynx wasn't all together anymore. So I'd have probably done Big Boss a little more. I don't know, I haven't worked on it, but I'd have tried to make them different. That would be my job. Thank you. You in the armor.
Oh, yes. Just want to say, obviously, long time Metal Gear Solid fan.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Also, Guyver, I remember that as a kid.
Yeah, that was a movie I did in 1993. It was a little sci-fi film. I met my wife on that film, so I was a big fan. Yeah, she was a sexy archaeologist. Sorry.
I guess my biggest question for you is, there's a lot of zany dialogue that Kojima comes up with, Scissor 60-watt, harakiri, all this stuff. Sure. What was one piece of dialogue he gave to you, just like, what?
Well, there was a lot of that. You know, that's sort of the fun of the Metal Gear series, is that it is really crazy in places. There's an exchange with Drebin, and I can't remember who says it. Is it me or him that says they had a dream about a poop monster? Sigint. And was it Sigint who had the dream? Yeah, okay, so. Oh, shit tank, yes.
It was a shit tank that shot shit that would transform other things into shit that would then transform other things into more shit, then developing the entire world into one big ball of shit.
Yeah, so
kind of like a Cyberman from Doctor Who, they just kind of collect the people they board kind of thing. They just go and out into the galaxy and make everything to shit.
Right. So I would say that was a big, that was an eyebrow raiser, certainly. You know, people ask me a lot if love can bloom on a battlefield, and I'm like, I don't think it could, but maybe, you know. So, yeah, I don't know, I can't think of any others. What's your favorite weird line? Anybody?
Mission failed.
Mission failed?
Yeah, mission failed.
Crab battle. Oh my God, Hikes, I want to bang you. I'm sorry to any children in the audience. Hurt me more. I remember that punch. Sure. All right, that's it. So
I was wondering if you could talk about the first time you met with Kojima.
Yeah, you know, people are always asking about my relationship with Kojima. I barely know him. I mean, he's never there when we're doing the English language versions of the game. The first time I met him was when we were doing the first game, and he came to LA and he had a Guyver poster for me to sign. And then he gave me a gift. It's a very Japanese tradition. And, you know, so, I mean, I probably met him 5 times, 6 times. Yeah, I mean, we're not terribly close, you know, but I respect his work. I mean, the games and the gameplay and the world that he's created is really stunning to me. So I've always been impressed with that, but never really gotten a chance to hang out. Sir?
A couple of years ago, there was word that Dark Hero Studios had been created. Since then, I haven't heard anything. Has there been anything in production, or are there any projects that's being worked on?
Yeah, it just, it takes a while to get these things going. So Wolves was initially a Dark Hero project, but then it ended up a Canadian film, so I had to create a Canadian company to do that. This is sort of boring inside baseball film stuff. But I'm just now signing a deal to direct another film that I want to have the Dark Hero logo, and I'm producing a miniseries at Fox called World War III. Those projects are starting to come to fruition. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hi, David.
Doctor.
Thank you. Huge fan. Metal Gear Solid to me has always been like the best storyline, even freaky though it may get, and the different things that it talks about: politics, eugenics, what makes us human, all that kind of thing. Information age.
Sure.
Probably one of the best stories, if not the best story in video games. Period. And I've always been a big fan of your voice acting in it, and bringing that story to life. One of my favorite lines is when you're having that exchange with Sigint in 3 about the virtues of being in the box. You should be in the box, then you'll understand.
I don't even remember that. That's pretty awesome.
That's right. Yeah.
I just feel comfortable in the box.
Come with me. But in either case, my question is, in all the years that you were involved directly with the series, doing the voice for Snake and then later Big Boss, the storyline as the script was given to you when it was time for the recordings and stuff, and seeing what Kojima had come up with essentially, what were your impressions of it as it was being written? Because I know of course the way that it was coming across in Japanese would be different in English, but the way that it was translated anywhere you can localize was very smart, I guess, and very in the way that they put it together. What were your impressions as a writer and director as to getting that finished product and then turning around and voicing it out? I mean, we're just reading it off the page, or were you seeing the ideas and understanding, whoa, this is some pretty deep stuff here, and what were your thoughts on it at the time?
Yeah, well, sometimes we would record out of order, and I wouldn't get the scripts in advance, so there were times when I was a little lost, and if you're doing your job as an actor and you're lost, you ask the director, Chris Zimmerman, and she'd check with the producers. And I'd say, okay, who is this and what's my relationship to them? And then they'd tell me and I'd hear all these things. I mean, for the longest time, I thought Eva was my mother. And then it turned out to be Ocelot's mother. And I'm like, how is that possible? I don't know what's happening there. But the really deep issues, the speeches, war has changed, private military companies, eugenics, all those things. Kojima's so good at being on the forefront of what's coming. And, the things I describe in Metal Gear 4 are all happening. And we talked about the human genome in the first Metal Gear, and it was 10 years later that we mapped it, So I grasped early on that we were dealing with, with real issues, with very cruel, sort of morality takes on war and battle and soldiers who get thrown into the middle of this machine and give up their lives for things that might not be the reasons that they're told, and so.
Which is like the whole story for 3 about that the time we live in chooses who our enemies are in this case. Like previously World War II, the US was friends with Russia going against the Germans, and then during the Cold War in part 3, now we're with the Russians in this case, and it's like soldiers don't get a choice kind of thing.
Right, you're now tasked with killing or being killed by people that were your allies just recently, and now we're teaming up with Iran, and it's just crazy. And so I've met so many soldiers here today and yesterday, a lot of Air Force people, and one of them just told me the thing that I fear the most, which is I became a soldier because of Solid Snake. And I'm like, I'm honored and I appreciate their service, but I don't want anybody getting getting killed because I'm prancing around in a digital playground, you know. I feel kind of bad about that. So anyway, but yeah, I was always very cognizant of the heaviness of the games and how seriously they took those issues. What's that? Oh yeah. Yes. No, yeah, I don't pay attention to other actors' lines. That's not true.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're the only snake.
You're one of many Doctor Who's. Okay. Captain America.
Hayter, big fan.
Thank you.
Had the chance to talk to you yesterday about what your favorite Metal Gear Solid was. And it was everyone's favorite, Metal Gear Solid 3.
Snake Eater.
It's true. I got the impression that you played the games.
Huh?
I want to know what your favorite boss battle is, because everyone has their one favorite.
You mean the difficulty level?
No, like the like Psycho Mantis in the end.
Oh, boss fight?
Yes.
Yeah, so, well, the end, you know, that sequence to me blew me away. I just hunting around those massive vistas and you know, you really feel like you're hunting down a sniper and that you're under sniper fire, and to use the directional mic I thought was so clever and cool, and the fact that he'd fall asleep as he was 100, I thought that was funny. So I love that. I love the original Psycho Mantis fight, particularly because I had recorded the dialogue, so I knew you had to change the controller. So I had a lot of inside information when I played it, so it was a lot easier, less frustrating. And Gray Fox, the fight with the ninja, which took me a long time to beat. It was hard, you know. But it was that, Vulcan Raven, I mean, this is a lot of really cool. And I love the fight at Shadow Moses in 4 between Metal Gear Ray and Metal Gear Rex. I think that's awesome. And then finally, the fight with Liquid, where you progress through every different theme from each game as we fight it out for the last time. I think that was pretty cool.
Awesome.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. Snake.
All right. Just a quick clarification just for you. Eva wasn't Ocelot's mother. That's actually the boss. So just...
Oh, the boss.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Eva was my mother.
Your mother.
Yeah. I thought the boss was my mother. And so...
Big Boss, if they like act like it's his mother, nobody knows who Big Boss's mom is or his dad. It doesn't really matter.
Right. No, but I thought she was like Solid Snake's mother for some reason. And they're like, no, she's Ocelot's mother. And I'm like, this okay, I
Yeah, it's all weird inbreeding kind of creepy stuff. It's
Sure.
just normal cutting open a C-section in the middle of the battlefield to get, yeah.
As you do.
It doesn't make it any less weird, but still it makes it a little bit, maybe some more sense. I don't know. Anyway. We clarified that.
Yeah, I got it now. No, I'm on top of it now.
Oh yeah.
I know who everybody's mother's. What's your do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. In the wake of finding out, like, up the months prior to announcing that Kiefer Sutherland was Solid Snake, everybody was thinking, oh, this is just going to be another Kojima prank because he pulled the prank with Moby Dick Studios. And
Right.
some people were like thinking it was a joke, other people were taking it more seriously. Personally, I was taking it more seriously. And I was worried at the time because I felt that a lot of people who didn't take it seriously and weren't voicing their outrage, maybe if all the fans actually spoke louder, maybe Kojima might consider you coming back in the future. And, well, I'm really sad that you're not in it, and the game is not going to be the same. I mean, it looks great, I mean, it plays great, I mean, maybe they could make something that doesn't last more than 20 minutes of a video game.
Sure.
But I do hope you come back in the future. I did hear you were going to be in a Metal Gear remake, but Kojima shut that down. Not Kojima Production shut that down for some legal reason.
Yeah,
But
I don't know what the reason is.
yeah, it was stupid. But
Well,
yeah, it kind of was.
it happens.
But what I was wondering is, I know that until, like, if you were to get back into the Metal Gear thing, does it have to be the end of Metal Gear? Could we be able to, like, I don't know, I know you're a busy man because you're making all these great films, and it's amazing to see where you've grown up from, like, back in the 70s to Captain America to Solid Snake, but, like, would you ever, like, think of making, like, a YouTube channel or doing, like, Metal Gear Solid Let's Plays, doing this, like, Snake? I'm sure, like, everybody in here would want to watch Snake play as Snake, doing Snake things, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, but I wouldn't do that. I mean, it's not my character, really. I mean, to a certain extent it is, but to...
You defined it.
Well, thank you, that's very kind, but, no, listen, unless... fans have asked me, well, will you do this? Will you do a voice mod for, to replace Kiefer or something? But I wouldn't Kickstarter. Yeah, but I wouldn't do that. I would never take money from the fans to do Snake. I feel like either we do it with Kojima or we don't, so.
Yeah.
So no, I'd feel stupid if I was just making YouTube videos as Snake.
Oh, no.
Like, no. So.
Do you think you'll ever, in the future, like, in your gut, do you want to do Snake again, or do you think that you're done and you want to move on to be just a producer?
Yeah, well, I'd love to do it again. I love the character, but I also feel like Metal Gear 4 was such a beautiful end to it that if that was my run, I'd be very satisfied with that.
And then Revengeance happened.
Yes. All right. Let's move on to the next. Thank you. Sir.
Mr. Hayter, there's a lot of real-world parallels in the Metal Gear game. Like I think it's Metal Gear Solid 1, talking about DARPA with the DARPA chief. DARPA is a real organization.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, playing the games, being involved in the games, are you shocked at any real-world parallels? For example, I think it's in 4 when you're old Snake, they have the walking tanks and riding fighting. Those are actually being developed by DARPA right now.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Does anything like that kind of trip you out to see that it was in a video game and now it's real?
Yeah, I mean, I was always tripped out by the accuracy and the predictive nature of the games. It's amazing. But I mean, I think Kojima is obsessive about research and figuring out where the world is going. So I think, I also have to do a lot of research in my other job as a writer to know what our military capabilities are, what the latest technology is, and so there are ways to sort of predict to a certain extent where the military is going to go, but the accuracy with which he does it is really stunning. Thanks. Sir.
I know you've done a lot of work other than just as Snake, and I know most people recognize you as Snake. I'm wondering if it ever bothers you that people just, whenever they think of you, it's just, oh, that's Snake, and they never really take you out of work.
No, it doesn't bother me. I mean, it's funny because my two careers are very separate, and people that know me in Hollywood, like producers or studio people, they don't have any idea what Snake is. Some of the younger ones do, but for the most part, they don't put that together. And so, because fans of Metal Gear recognize me from that primarily, I mean, that's great. I don't care what people recognize me for as long as they appreciate what I'm doing. So, no, never annoys me anyways.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, David.
Hello.
First, thank you for coming to Albuquerque Comic-Con and giving us this opportunity to chat with you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, I have a non-Metal Gear Solid question.
What?
I know, right? Shocker.
Fantastic.
I was actually a really big fan of the anime series where you voiced the male lead role way back in the day.
Tamahome.
Kushigi Yugi.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of wondering, how did you go from a romantic anime series over to all of the different things that you're doing your experiences?
Well, so yeah, what she's talking about is a show called Fushigi Yugi, the mysterious play. Thank you. Yeah, it was like 52 episodes of this crazy Japanese fantasy show, and I played this young romantic warrior named Tamahome. And when I did the movie Guyver, when I was about 23 years old, they were mixing it. They're mixing the sound and music at a soundstage in the Valley in California. And there was a guy there named Kevin Seymour, and Kevin Seymour was obsessed with bringing anime to the United States, and he's responsible for directing the English language versions of many of your favorite anime. And so I was hanging out there, and he asked me if I'd like to do some voices, and it was like $50 an hour, and I said, yes, I would like to do that, because I'm very hungry, you know. If you could, you know, are you going to finish that sandwich sort of situation? And so it was me and Bryan Cranston was there. So we did a bunch of like anime movies together, and we got to do my favorite. I loved Fushigi Yugi, and that was really fun. But my favorite was I did a movie called Lupin III: Castle of Cagliostro. So we're recording this, and he asked me to play the lead, and so we're recording it and watching it, like, this is a really good movie, like the sequences are spectacular, and I've never really seen anything like it, and I was like, boy, that director's going places, and then it turned out to be Hayao Miyazaki's first film, and at the time, I didn't know who Miyazaki was, and later figured that out, and then later found out that I had been the lead in his first film, so that was a very cool time of my life, but it was all non-union stuff, and so as I joined the union and became more professional, I had to stop doing that. But actually, Fushigi Yugi, I was still doing when I got the job writing X-Men. So to do the final episodes, we were shooting in Toronto, and I had to fly back. So Friday night, I would hop on a flight, fly to Los Angeles, record Fushigi Yugi on Saturday and Sunday, and then head back Sunday night to Toronto to shoot X-Men. So it's a little grueling.
Well, thank you for doing it, because I'm sure you made all the young girls at that time very happy for voicing him.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I have a daughter, and I always wanted her to see the show, but then, because it was this beautiful romantic tale, and then there'd be this horrible rape scene, or somebody would get their arms chopped off and get beaten to death with it, and so, you know, it's a little conflicted over it. But thank you for saying.
Hi, Miss. Well, they say that there's a lot of references in Metal Gear to Escape from New York.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if Hideo or somebody told you like, hey, watch this movie and you know, take what you can from it and help it make you develop Snake.
No, nobody ever said that. Nobody had to, because Escape from New York is one of my top 10 favorite films. I watch it once a year at least. I'm just a massive fan of that movie. So I knew the references, but I was kind of concerned we were going to get sued. So I tried to not make him Kurt Russell's Snake Plissken. Like his, call me Snake, call me Snake. It sounds like Snake when I do it, but you know, he's a lot more whispery than gravelly per se. So yeah, I tried to separate it a little bit so we didn't all get sued.
Did you like Escape from LA?
That was a movie that happened, yeah.
One last thing.
Yeah.
Can you say like the word?
Okay, so one more question?
I was wondering.
Sorry, Rorschach.
I'm a huge fan of Watchmen.
I'll come down.
And I was wondering if you found any challenges translating the comic into a movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, so I worked on the movie Watchmen, wrote the screenplay for that, and I spent 9 years, we had it at 4 different studios. They asked me to make it a buddy comedy between Rorschach and Dan at one point. They asked me to cut the blue guy, put pants on him. Yeah, I mean, it was very, very difficult to get a studio to understand what that movie was. And it really was not until Zack Snyder had his hit with 300 and was able to make the movie the way he wanted to. You know, we needed a director who had that kind of power and heat behind him. So, yeah, many, many challenges, but all worked out. Thank you guys. Listen, for all of you who've been waiting, I'll come down or I'll meet you in the hall and I'll answer your questions. Thank you so much for having me, guys. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I love you all.